I need to stay put.
As much as possible.
I was gonna walk in front of the parents, but
Oh, that's fine.
So welcome. We're glad you all came. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start. I'm Shonda Beatles, the business manager here. And if you're signed on to our Howard Transportation Remind app, you get a lot of messages from me about what's going on with the buses. So I kind of wanted to let you all know what happens from the school level before Mr. Franklin starts and discusses what happens from transportation's level. So in the afternoon between 3:45, I either receive a text from the supervisors or I send a text, sometimes they're busy, to find out, are there any updates on buses? So they'll respond back, and then when they respond, we enter it into this particular Excel sheet. Then I'll go outside and I go to each driver and I ask, on top of this, hey, which routes are you taking? Because some of them take additional routes. And so they'll tell us and we'll enter it in. Once we enter it in, and I'll just kind of show you quickly how we enter it and how it looks. Because we're outside, me and Dr. Owens, the 7th grade assistant principal, are outside. And as we type on our phones outside, it pops up here green to let the kids know what bus. So all teachers in their classroom have one of these. And what they do is at 4 o'clock, even though they're still teaching, they will put this up so that every kid knows. So I just type in S1, which means school side first bus. So that lets the kids know what number your bus is on the school side. Or I'll type F1 if they're on the field side and let them know what number they are on the field side. At 4:15, the students writing 588 and whatever buses are green, come on outside, get on their buses. At 4:22 on the dot, I move all buses out. As other buses come up, Dr. Owens will then type into this while I'm moving the buses out so that the next buses can come. At 4:25, every teacher who still has remaining students walks them down to the cafeteria where Ms. Willingham, Dr. Harper, and Ms. Capelli sit in the cafeteria with the kids so the teachers can go home. And when the buses ride up, Dr. Owens types in and I get on a walkie-talkie and I'm like, bus 738 is here. And they send 738 kids out, they get on the bus, then they leave. Anytime there is a late bus, because sometimes they'll let us know. Yesterday, I think was a good one. A bus was late because it was in an accident. I constantly put in the remind, bus is late, bus is late, bus is late, waiting on an ETA, bus is late. And then when it comes, I said, bus is here, arrived, and left. So if you're not on the transportation remind, please make sure you get on the transportation remind so you can get up-to-date information from the school. Keep in mind, the school does not have access to here comes the bus. So we don't know what is sent to you all as far as what you receive, what you don't receive. We can only go from what we receive at the school level. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is John Franklin. I'm the Senior Executive Director of Transportation. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the school. I know you all have a lot of questions, so I won't speak for too long. I want to introduce my two colleagues that accompanied me today. Mr. Patrick Martin, Senior Director of Operations, and of course, Mr. Torres Williams, our Transportation Supervisor over the North Region, which includes the Midtown cluster, North Atlanta, Jackson, and Douglas clusters. I know that ultimately the evaluation for transportation efficiency is when I expect the bus, does it come to my child's stop? And do I see my child at home in the afternoon, safe and sound, at about relatively the time that the sheets online say it is? I just wanted to share a few things in light of some of the other circumstances going on nationally and locally with our ability to recruit and retrain CDL drivers. We have made a dent in our vacancies. Okay. The numbers I'm going to give you have to be kind of whittled into the additional numbers that we brought on with the new Inman K-5 campus. So we added 25 positions for this budget year to prepare us for August 23. So we were sitting at around 32 vacancies in August. We whittled that down to 20 in October. We're now sitting at 55, but again, we've added a bunch of positions to prepare ourselves for the next fiscal year so that we can attract people and be fully staffed up by the time the new K-5 comes online and the additional drivers are needed. In addition to that, we are in the process of hiring a specific recruiter for bus drivers. Typically, this role has been fulfilled by the Human Resources Department, who also has concurrent responsibilities in recruiting teachers and other district personnel. Knowing the importance of mechanics, bus drivers, crossing guards, and cafeteria workers in the operations division, we are making that move. That is in the recruitment process right now. One other thing relative to communication, I'm sure that each parent here will tell us that there are complications with Here Comes the Bus. And last year, we recognized that when parents did call the call center, there was waits up to 5, 7, and 9 minutes. We've hired more call center reps. Right now, we're sitting at about 1:45 in English, 50 seconds in Spanish on average. However, when you call between 8 and 9:30, which would typically be the call window for parents of students in middle school, the wait time last week was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. About a minute and 60, 59, 60 seconds, almost 2 minutes for Spanish. We've also sent out 98 messages to Howard specific morning situations in Here Comes the Bus. We've tried to incorporate more descriptions. At first, if you got messages that were simply the bus is late, call the call center. Now we're trying to insert the bus, the original assigned bus, the doubling situation, and then the number of the bus that will be coming to replace the assigned bus, albeit much late. I also wanted to cover that a lot in the afternoon. I'm sure we'll hear some concerns about how late children are getting home. Aside from 5 drivers, most drivers do not have a Midtown route in their sequence. So in a sequence, you do an elementary run. Traditionally, you do a high school run, and traditionally, you do a middle school run. That would create 3 tiers, and that would be a sequence. Obviously, traffic conditions in this community are very dense. There's not enough time and capacity to do an elementary run, complete, drive to Midtown, do a run over there, complete, and then get to Howard Middle School by 4:15 when Midtown gets out at 3:45, 3:52, and you give 7 minutes for the school to dismiss. So only 5 of these drivers have the sequential capacity to do high school routes. The delay is that a lot of these additional routes that do not have high schools are being assigned high schools to compensate for other operators who are absent. Hence, that is causing some of the reasons for the excessive delays in the afternoon on the pickup, because the drivers had to do an elementary, had to go to Midtown, do a run. Once that run is done, after they get through the run and the traffic to commute to Howard, they're getting here anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour after the 4:15 bus stop. So I've spoken for 5 or 6 minutes. I didn't want to take up too much time, but I did want to share some of the efforts that we are doing, and I'd be glad and happy to take any questions or concerns that folks may have.
Well, I'm here for 19-922.
922?
Yes.
Yes.
So, this bus was running smoothly, wonderfully, driver was great, to about a month or so. Then from that point, it's these nightmares, so it's personally. Bus would come anywhere 8:30 to 9. Don't know, it's maybe today it was 8:30, which is highly unusual. Usually it's regular stop is at 8:36, 8:37. It never comes, 10 minutes before 9 o'clock, it's the earliest I've seen it. Sometimes it can go real crowded. Today, the bus passed by my house. So anywhere from 8:30 to 9:15, we have no, no clarity, no way to anticipate. Because of that, if you're chasing out buses in the neighborhood, so we might get here and there, whoever one see passing by. So why? I don't understand what happened to that one. I understand the problem. Have people and all that, but give me the GPS. Show me, is this bus gonna be late or you can't stay for 5 minutes in the bus? Just
Sure, I can provide a little bit of context, and then I'll throw it over to Mr. Williams to give the additional context. That driver, Mr. Treadwell, is one of our stalwart drivers. However, he's suffered a personal circumstance which takes him out of work. So that encroaches on our staffing challenges. So there aren't always standby drivers. We're very limited. I believe we have 4 right now in the region. The number of standby drivers we have is far overshadowed by the need. And so there isn't another suitable driver that can do this tit for tat. They get in his bus and they do his route and everything runs normal and fluidly. Is there any more context you can provide in 19922?
Right. So I know what you're talking about. So I think a lot of times that driver that's actually doing the route is doing a high school route, which throws them behind. I can get with that driver because they're not in that bus 19922. So a lot of times you can't really track the bus, but I have to work with him so he can make sure he's putting whatever bus he's in the route he's doing. So that way you'll be able to track it. So I can see you actually give you a better time when you're supposed to be there. Like I said, when I get back to the office today, I will get with that driver to give you a more accurate time. So that's what's going on there.
all 40 minutes.
There may be like if he's on the town route, that's the. I just feel like.
Getting this been happening, like you said, for the past 3 weeks, pretty much.
I'm not on a route.
Oh, you on a different route. Oh, you're on a different one. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not in there. Don't say that, because I know. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, so I kind of put another layer of context on it. So when we're doubling or having a substitute driver, add on 19922, for your example, you can only track one route per time, like as far as seeking up, so the parents can track it when here comes the bus. So say the sub driver or the driver that's doubling up is in a different bus, 19921. He can only, I guess, mimic in the system, and here comes the bus, the 19921. So that's something that we've spoke of and brought to the attention of the Here Comes the Bus representative, that you can only track the one route per, I guess, tier. Or run.
When the morning bus comes in, I don't think it's 588. Sometimes I see 688.
That's it. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not a double bus. It's
Right.
a single bus.
Right.
It's
That's a
not single.
PM, that's an afternoon guide. The morning looks much different. So this is what they display to the students in the afternoon. Or in the morning, for your morning pickup, looks far different than this.
So
So I've been able to track other substitute guy can never track. Either put the GPS on, or I don't know what it is. It tremendously helped me.
And I will work, like I said, I'll work with him today on fixing that problem. And once you get back to, you can be able to track and see where the bus is in real time.
What each driver does, ma'am, when they arrive for the start of a shift, there's a tablet in the front of the bus. If you ever look while the kids, students are loading, you can see a mounted tablet. They log in with their Lawson number, they do their pre-trip, then they select their route. So there's a list of all the routes. So regardless of whatever bus you're in, you can tie it to that bus for display purposes. The challenges come, like Mr. Martin said, when one bus has to do 2 runs on the same tier at the same time period. So if I'm at, let's say I'm at Mary Lynn, and I do 2 routes, I'm only going to be able to display 1. So a whole group of parents are going to be befuddled and confused because they're not being able to track. And that's what and then there's also the possibility that the driver is not logging into the tablet, which could also be.
Yeah, because they're not able to track in the afternoon either, because 588 is doing 2 routes. So not going to be able to track it. This 588 route is displaying. So if you're looking at that, you won't be able to see where the bus is coming to you for 19922. And
Yeah. It's double looking.
yeah, it,
Yeah. I don't know, it doesn't sound like there was a solution. If there's understanding. Something will happen. I like more.
so we are working on, we have drivers that are in training. So when they come out, we can place them on the routes that need the most. In other words, like, again, this route needs a driver on it, so they can run effectively. So we do have drivers that are in training, so we're trying to get them out as soon as possible. But the turnaround rate may be, sometimes depends on 3 weeks, depending on if they already have a license to drive. But we are working on giving a solution. But for what I can tell you, and I'm truly sorry, but I can go to the driver so we can give you real time information. But right now we are trying to work and trying to get the kids picked up like they used to get picked up in the past with Mr. Trello.
And another solution that we're trying to present is how do we combine those routes? Like say you got low ridership on 2 separate buses. Maybe you look at combining those routes for 1 driver, thus creating another available driver to accommodate different route.
Yeah, you should do that, because I
Yes.
can tell you that. I stopped now, there's nobody there. But nobody there. No stops, no kids. Buses. Barely empty. So it's like, something passes at some point.
Right.
So, help. You've done your job by passing the first year, but that's not it. Nothing else to say.
I do want to say one more thing, and I don't know if it'll help make you feel any better, but we do have ongoing driver incentives that have been in place for over a year for anybody with a commercial driver's license to come on board. Our challenge is that right now, all we're attracting is people without a commercial driver's license. And so they're soup to nuts training, from permit to training to Georgia basic driver education to range training, riding with kids, without kids, is a month and a half. And it's working. I mean, you see that we're whittling down our numbers. However, it's the aggregate length that it takes. We are paying people to work on training. We always have, but we also pay them through the permit. The district is evaluating how we compensate drivers because we're in competition with every other organization in Atlanta that needs commercial drivers. And like Mr. Martin said, we are looking at ways that we can better communicate with accuracy some of the issues. I mean, the school's doing Remind. We ultimately hold this operational data in the morning, and we're working on better ways outside of Here Comes the Bus to help communicate that, because all 3 of us understand that the bus is a significant part of the morning schedule for a family. Work, other kids and things like that.
So,
Just
Pretty
gonna
good.
look at your name. real quick.
my name's Lisa, yeah. So, I've sat in on a couple of, board meetings, board member meetings where transportation keeps coming up. It seemed to me that, you and board members like, so we put, kind of a Google spreadsheet out there trying to get real details, like what specifically is happening on the route. And based on what I've heard in some of these meetings, and my children are on the bus 588, so I'll speak from some of their specific experiences. I think everybody understands the higher issue. I think where the frustrations arise are the communication issue. So if, and to me, it does kind of come to an app issue. You explained, thank you for explaining what the drivers see and how they log in. But if on bus 588 has been very inconsistent, I know I got a phone call that says it doesn't have a permanent driver, and that's part of the reason why. So we don't know if it's on us, and I think that bus particularly has had some maintenance issues.
Yeah.
So if we don't know, if sometimes we get announcements that it's a sub bus, sometimes we don't, but if it's a sub bus, we can't see it. We don't know if the bus has missed our stop and has completed its route and continued on, which has happened. Or if the bus is just still working its way through the route, or if the bus has been doubled. So we're just sitting there uncertain. Because I know because I have a lot of flexibility in the morning, I drive, I've just started to drive where most days I drive them. And there have been days where I've got the announcements that bus 588 is going to be on 671 or something. So on my way back from Howard, I passed 671 going to Howard, but then I passed 3 or 4 kids on my route that will never be done. So that's where I think some of the frustration is, where if we have no insight into where that bus is and the sub drivers may be missing stops, how long do they wait? Like, especially at this time of day where a lot of parents may have already left. Like, I have flexibility, I'm taking kids back, I call the parents and I see your kids still standing there, can I take them back? Or but I know that towards the middle part of ours is a big apartment complex. I've never driven down there to see if those kids are getting picked up or not. But I think that, like, I understand, y'all used to, here comes the bus, and basically we're not always told when it's doubled. Like, at the end of the day, if we know when it's done, like I can think that if you see multiple with S1 and they're doubled, but we on our side, here come the bus, don't always get that. I am happy to come pick up kids and take some of the load off of the double bus, because my kids have gotten on a double bus. It's been big, sent me pictures, 3 kids to a seat and kids standing in an aisle, and they got off at the first one. And just, shared their location so I could come get that. So I think there are a lot of us that are willing to help out. Like, we're big enough cars, we're willing to say, look, if we know there's a double bus this morning, some kids don't have a ride, I'll take extra kids in. But it seems to me that we're lacking, and when it doesn't show up on that map, we don't know what to do. We don't know if it's just not coming, or if we just don't see it.
My response would be yes. We need to improve our communication, since a lot of these other pictures, to be honest with you, don't look like they're going to get any better. Recruiting drivers, we're doing all we can to retain them with compensation and benefits and things like that, and engagement. But Ms. Martin and I are meeting with the Executive Director of Communications next week to go over not only how we communicate with the schools in the afternoon, but also what else we can do to enhance communication and relieve the concern. This isn't the only school that we've gone to. I'm sure you all heard me say this in other meetings. At the end of the day, we get to elementary, we get to high school. Unfortunately, the middle school at 4:15 kind of pays for all of the issues that happened earlier, whether it's a return kindergartner, a double, a disruption, an accident, all those things cascade into lateness. And now that the clocks and times have changed, not getting home till dark. So that's an area that we're going to focus on. Like we did with the call center, increasing the number of reps through the budget cycle. And carefully monitoring what our wait times and our queue times are. Now we need to improve outbound communication outside of the school. We are the ones that hold the keys to, this is what we tell the school that we're going to do. And this is how they communicate that to the students. But ultimately, folks like Mr. Williams, assistant supervisors are putting the pieces of the puzzle together from 4:30 in the morning all the way till well past 5, because it's a dynamic process. It's ever changing throughout the night.
You
want better, I'll give you a card.
Thank you. We're just not having specific.
I've actually had vice versa. We've had a couple of instances.
Which bus number?
Which
bus
bus?
number?
It's 7:30. It's been pretty consistent in the morning. It's the afternoon where I get confused because I don't know. I don't know what happens when the bus leaves. I don't know if the kids are full. If they're supposed to be on the bus.
So that bus is the one that does a high school route. Because she used to be on time all the time, but she has a high school route now.
This is all.
Yes, and she's been late, but the kids, it comes on there, so the kids know which one it is.
They just know she's late. Because I know sometimes they that bus will change.
The only time it changes is when 20-970 will pick them up because 738 is too late. And they communicate with each other and she'll say, go ahead and call 738 because it's gonna be too late.
So
And when
that one go and drop and come back.
no, she will just pick them up here. But when that happens, we pull it up there and the kids come down. So the kids know that, this is every day, it's very consistent. So the kids know when they see the green come on next to their bus, come on out.
Yeah, I just wanted to use more often, sometimes it's texting. That's where I mean, if he doesn't have, I predict this 11-year-old boy forgets his communication device. I have no way of knowing like what's going on.
So are
I
you,
will say this, like I said, the morning, she is very consistent. Like, they move the sub-driver, or they double correct. The afternoon stuff, it's like I never really did. And I just don't know if communication. I don't know. This is awesome.
yeah, all of this is immediate. And at 4:25, when the teachers walk them down in here, there are 3 assistant principals in here that wait. And so the parents know because I'm sending messages on the Remind app to say, hey, 738 is late. Please be patient. They're doing a high school route or they've been in an accident or whatever. And I'll say it's going to be really late. And then when I come in here or when I radio to the APs, it's like, if any kid wants to call their parents because this bus is going to be late, go ahead and tell them to call their parents. So we communicate with the kids and I communicate with the parents. And then of course I communicate with the administration from the supervisors from the transportation just to get it updated. Sometimes I don't know what ETA. You know, when I get an ETA, I put it in the Remind app and say, ETA 10 minutes, or I'm not sure of an ETA, I'm still trying to figure out an ETA. And then that's how I let parents know. And then they, the admin that's in here, communicates with the children.
That post are always to take that high school route.
No.
Always have to-
So today is the last day, so like today should be a little delayed today getting here. Today's the last day, like started back on Monday, she's back on her regular schedule. As being on time for Howard and getting kids home on time. Unless something happens in between with the bus or something like that, but she'll be back on time, on track on Monday.
On your location, in terms of reading, they know which, where out there. Does that bus, so in this situation where if 738 is not going home on, if 738 is not going home on bus number 21004, does that bus number get updated by you too?
Yes.
Okay, so the kids should know, so your child should, when you see that the bus number changes, and we should get that through the remind.
You won't get the bus change.
Okay.
You'll get if there's a late bus. The
Okay.
kids also, you all can see it, but there's a sheet of paper in the back. And on that sheet of paper on the back side, is black. And you have a capital with that right on there. So as the kids come out, they also can look out there. And we stand out there, me and Dr. Cohen stand out there and disseminate and let kids know where to go. So it's a multiple communication, it's not just one or two of us.
So just when that bus driver calls you and says, I'm not gonna make it.
So no, the supervisor,
You guys, it goes
right,
to
the
them.
supervisors text me and
All right.
say, like in a minute, it's between that time, I'll get a text and say, this bus will be with this one will be on this one, and I change everything on this.
Uh-huh.
Then I go out 4 o'clock, me and Dr. Owens head out here and individually ask the driver, in addition to, especially if we get something from the supervisors that say, hey, you're doubling with such and such. We go and speak to that particular driver and say, hey, you're taking such and such and such and such. And if they say no, I say, well, the supervisors have said, and so I communicate with them and the driver, the same as Dr. Owens. And then we put it in there, and then at 4:15, the buses come out, the kids come out based on who's green. And then they sit and wait to see if theirs turns green. If it doesn't turn green at 4:25, all the remaining come in here. So they're centrally located. So nobody should miss the bus once they come in here because they're in here with the administration to say, and I get on the radio and Dr. Owens puts it in there to say, hey, Route 78's here, Route 78, officers on 78, please come to the bus line. Your bus has arrived. We do it again and say, bus is leaving. So we communicate several different ways.
Like yesterday, there was that bus that was late because of an accident. Did that go through the bus too?
I don't know about it. We can't see
You
it.
don't see your bus.
So that accident took place, I think, after 3. Typically not, I can tell you, because professing that the reality of things, he was out yesterday, Mr. Williams, we had one person, they have to go out and service the accident. They have to be the conduit with the police, they have to work the scene, do the report. Typically, that person also drives if they're not out in an accident, so trying to cover all of our routes with all of our resources, so probably not.
Okay.
But our call center is putting things in Here Comes the Bus. And they're all trained from 5:30 in the morning to 7 at night to enter updates. But again, things are moving so fast after 2:45. Just in the cycle of time, 2:45 to 3:45 between elementary and high school. There's a breather space in there. It's a whole hour. But then that space between 3:45 and 4:15, 3:45 at high school, 4:15 at middle school is a very busy time where lots of things are changing. I also share that we also have to support our athletic departments, ACCA. So there's other things that we do to support students outside of just take home route service. So we do try to keep on top of it. And like I said, we're going to work with our communications department, see how we can enhance. I mean, we've already helped benefit a lot of parents. And I think that there are some who say, here comes the bus. It's marvelous because they have a consistent driver who logs into the app and everything works perfect. And then we have folks that have personnel issues, equipment issues, and or doubling issues, and the app just doesn't seem to connect for them. Not so much an app functionality as it is maybe driver use of the tablet as well as equipment and staffing help to alleviate those concerns. But
That's not an ABS app, right? That's an app that.
no,
ABS
so
contracts.
the history on that is we hired a developer to build our own app. We started in 15, we finished it in 17. We're about 90% of the way through, and we did launch it over at Morningside, Spark, and some schools in the Midtown cluster. Unfortunately, it's a tall drink of water, and we had about $100,000 that we put in development. Then it was going to just a big hole in the ground, and so then we looked to evaluate a vendor that provided an app that took our planned route data, overlaid it with GPS data, and that was the January launch of Here Comes the Bus.
I also want to let you all know that you can respond, like when I send stuff out on the Howard Transportation Remind, you can respond back and I respond right back to you. So, if you have a question while you're on and you text it in, it comes to me, I respond.
When routes doubled, what does the drivers, like, how do they go through, because how do they know which stop to, do they have to just the iPad show them which route to go to?
So-
next?
So
Because
we give them route sheets.
uh-huh.
So they'll know, a lot of the people that are veteran drivers, they actually know where your stop is and your stop is. They know how to mix or intertwine the route together to get the kids home. And so they have an actual sheet to show them where to go, left and right turns.
Oh,
Could you define doubling in the sense of intermingling and then going out and coming back?
So when we say double, a lot of times if they leave here, they put 2 routes on one bus. If there's enough room, we can put all the kids on the bus, and then they can run that route. So sometimes they have to cover one route first, and then they'll do the other route. So that's what sometimes we do, doubling. And sometimes they may have to come back to the school to pick up the route and then take those kids home if there's not enough room.
yeah, I guess my question is, were they go to routes? That would seem like it'd be very confusing and part of the they just said they got.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah,
just-
they have a sheet to do. A lot of time, unless it's happening in real time, if someone has an accident, they try to help out. There is on the tablet that they have on the bus, there are stops.
Okay.
And so they can pull up another route and follow the stops that's on there as well.
I live in Morningside, so a lot of, there's a couple of routes that all kind of, they all go down to the time when they go on. That's everything. I would just think it might be more confusing, but I've always been curious about that. Students are kind of figure out where to turn. But, I think that we did email, there was one time, I don't know how the bus ended up over there. It's kind of at this edge where Springdale Park kind of comes in and Morningside, but it's not technically APS, like it's a little park that's in that county. And I mean, kids got off the bus there, and it was pretty far away, it's not even really in our, so that's why I started to get concerned that like when they're double, that maybe the new driver, it didn't seem to be.
If it's a new driver, a lot of times they don't. We try to make sure they have the sheet in hand, so that way they can have the left and right turns. But if you have a lot of drivers that's been here for a while, some of them know at least up to 5 routes in their head and where they're going.
Purely from an operational standpoint, we're looking forward to August 23 because we will divest ourselves of all the walkers in the Morningside area that are now being bused to the Inman building and the Haygood bus in the afternoon. So we have to support relocations.
Will that free up some bus drivers?
It will, but then they'll be
They'll be-
absorbed by the Inman commitment. But similar to what we did here at Howard, which the Go Team chair at the time, Jennifer Keenan, and I worked together. We came up with a pretty good transportation plan as far as the walk zones. Sean Bezos was also part of that. Forgive me. So, and we had the city of Atlanta working with us. So like the Hawk over there in Randolph is they're also there. So we have the Safe Routes to School manager from the city of Atlanta working with us. So we want to serve our students safely, but we want to do it efficiently.
Bus drivers pretty consistent.
This particular cluster here, got some pretty senior drivers here. So like Council Williams, no charge of the routes over here. As far as the answer to the question, turnover rate, it kind of depends. Once it's in you, and it's hard to get it out of them. For lack of better words, that's pretty amazing operators over here that's been consistent overall. So you will see that shortcoming ball up when somebody's absent. Unfortunately, we average about 5 absences in this cluster itself, which in addition to the open routes, it kind of expands the timeliness or lack thereof to the school. So
If I could go back and kind of emphasize something Ms. Homestead said, some of our folks double elementary, middle, and high school, and maybe again in the afternoon. It's very stressful. When you're managing students, you're managing the directions, you're managing curious parents in the door, you got a lot going on. So we are working on social emotional learning, restorative practices, building relationships, and also stress management to help with retaining people. Once we get them in, we want to keep them long-term. Also knowing that there are other opportunities out there for CDL holders. So we have taken a real interest in the last year and a half of making sure that we're catering to their needs and helping to reduce their stress. We have new buses that just got here, and we've got another order coming in, going back to your concerns about, unreliable equipment. So we're using some SPOS dollars to spend on getting newer buses. We have a new compound that's being built out off of 285 and Donnelly Hollowell. All those things I think will help enhance this job for people to want to stay here throughout their career. They do earn a pension, and they do get benefits on the first day. They're up to 6 hours. There's plenty of overtime opportunities with trips and things like that. So we're trying to make it both an engaging work environment and a financial incentive for them to stay with us.
It's always it's coming from Midtown in the morning. So that bus to stops, yes. And you're saying that they are, yeah. It's a possibility. It's they probably had the route number that on the side of the bus or something like that. Yeah. So that's the bus that it will be. Going forward, but a lot of times, so sometimes they're able to drop off in Midtown a little earlier. if the school official is outside and allows them to drop them off. So that may be one of the reasons that happens, because they may drop off at 8:15 and then start on picking up stops.
May I say one last thing? We're accepting part-time drivers. You know anybody that can give us an afternoon or a morning? We'll take it. We've had a couple parents that I know of that helped us out for a little while the real estate business did not flounder. They were able to do their real estate business and drive a bus for a while, and then we appreciated that. So if you know anybody you meet anybody that's looking for a job, we've got a lot of feelers out. We're looking for people to come join us for whatever time we can.
What is the pay per hour? Somebody asks me, if I say to someone, people are looking for drivers, they're gonna ask me, how much do they pay?
$21 an hour.
Okay.
With experience modifier. So if they have driving experience, then they can apply for an experience modifier. It's 6 hours a day. It's 201 days a year. So consider the 180 days of school plus paid holidays plus professional development days. Benefits start the first day. Okay, health benefits. They also have a pension that starts with the city of Atlanta. Other attributes is after 30 days, should they wish, they could sign up on an intermittent basis for field trips. Tonight, we have one playoff game, I believe, and we have more tomorrow. Those are 6-7 hour, time enhancements to your paycheck. We do, after, I'm sure you all as parents are familiar, we had the transportation student travel ban last fall, the previous year. That was lifted in January. So now a lot of schools are taking a lot of trips, and we're facilitating that. We've got a lot of senior people that are serving the school that help us in a lot of different ways to enhance their paycheck. So those are some things that you can sell them on. We do have an hourly option. So if, for instance, someone is committed to driving Uber or Lyft from 3 to 11 and they can just give us the mornings, that would have the benefits with it, but it would be hourly and it would be an income enhancement. And the other thing I think you could tout is the paid permit and paid CDL training. That is, a major enhancement for someone to earn money, and we pay people to get their commercial driver's license. Even though we don't like it, some of them move on to better jobs afterwards in trucking business or, Delta buses or things like that. But there's a lot of attributes to driving a bus. We've had some college kids do it part-time as they work towards teaching degrees. It's a great landing spot for retirees that are relatively young, need a little bit of supplemental income. There's, very, very little time off between Thanksgiving, winter holiday break, spring break, and summer to travel and visit family and things like that. And I think truly it's a fulfilling gig when you're retired to work with kids. And, we have a lot of people that are retired that enjoy the job quite a bit. So those are the selling attributes. We're out in the community. We have a recruitment van. Like I said, we're in the process of hiring a recruiter just dedicated to helping us in the operations division staff the positions for us. It's in my salesman mode there for a second.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you're welcome.
Any updates you're at to Viper to do to that difference with us?
We press them often. We have pressed them. We're still in project phase. I think that they have many customers saying that they're experiencing staffing issues. And what can we do? But I can tell you from the time that we developed the app there's a lot to taking planned route data from one environment, reading it in a separate environment, and then transmitting that into an application with live automatic vehicle locator signals. I wasn't doing the work, but I helped set the project plan and the milestones. And it was like, trying to dig in quicksand. Every time we got a foot, it just filled back up on us. So we've asked, and this application is also doing Los Angeles Unified School System, some of the large systems down in Florida, Orange County Schools, Miami-Dade, Broward. They are the recognized Charlotte-Mecklenburg. They have the largest school systems, and they have that capacity to work with the large routing software vendors. And they're trying to push this product to be able to do some of these things correctly. And that's the challenge. We don't want to throw just anything out there that just doesn't meet the expectations of our customers.
Thank you so much.